Testwiseness. So let's take a look at the Testwiseness test I sent you earlier, asking you to work on it so that you reap maximum benefits from this lecture. Okay, so let's take a look here. Answer the following multiple choice quiz. It is easier than it looks. All right, take a look at the first one here. The answer to this one refers to now, most of you must have chosen one overture. All right, that's right, because what and in English, this is called an article. What follows and must begin with the vowel. Vowel in English, A-E-I-O-U. A-E-I-O-U. Okay? So the only answer that begins with a vowel is what? Overture. So you see here the word and here, it provides you with a clue, unintended clue to the answer. Alright, so if you're test-wise, you'll be able to pick it up. Alright, now look at question 2. It is bizarre, isn't it? They are not English, but still you could come up with a good guess in which one, I don't know, people rock it was Socran Inco. Well, here it seems that the word Inco is a verb, okay? Or anyway, you check the answers here, you look for what? Sound repeat, word repeat, that type of thing, and you know that what Inco is repeated here, B. So it is highly likely to be the answer. So word repeat, sound repeat, phrase repeat. Right? All right. So take a look at what? Take a look at 3. Okay, it's a good 3 here. If there were a question here, which one would be the correct answer? Now take a look at all of them here. Okay, you have what? Vanquished, victorious, conquered, defeated. Now A, C, D, they all share approximately the same meaning. Is that right? And only victorious is what? Victorious is opposite to the other 3. Okay, victorious is opposite to the other 3. So this one is called what? It stands out, or it's called the 3-1 split in the 4th choice multiple choice. 3 answers are similar, and one is what? It stands out distinctly or opposite to the other 3. Okay, so this one is called the 3-1 split. Why 3-1 split? When we construct multiple choice items, it is easy what? Let's say here what we want, say the answer to be what? Victorious. So what about the other incorrect alternatives? We call them distractors. Okay? So the first distractor, well, is easy, right? Opposite to victorious, so vanquished. But then what about the second distractor? Second distractor, it becomes more difficult to come up with the second distractor, which is homogeneous to the 2 already existing. So, item writers, inexperienced item writers tend to use a synonym to vanquished. So conquered and then defeated. All right. So and in that case, we have a lot of 3-1 split or ridiculous associations. All right. It's called ridiculous association or 3-1 split. Okay? In a 4-choice multiple choice, in a 5-choice 4-1 split. Okay, so you look for that. Okay, you look for that, and it is it is easy. Okay, if you see this scenario. Now, number four here. Which one is the correct answer? Well, no English. So, option D stands out because it is the longest. So it is also likely to be to be the correct answer. Why? Now, most of the time the correct answer has to be true. Is that right? So in order to make something true, okay, a lot of time we have to we have to build the context. We have to create the context, okay, in which the statement is true. Alright? So to do that, the correct answer will likely be statistically, like the probability, okay, the correct answer must be much longer than those incorrect ones because there is no incentive to provide the context for an incorrect alternative or for a false statement. You know what I mean? So for true statement, a lot of time we need the context in which the statement is true. So we need to put the context in and therefore making the answer longer. Good. Okay, so let's take a look at Let's take a look at number 5. Okay. Again, no English. Which one is the correct answer? Well, take a look here. Okay, take a look here. Canada, Britain, United States, they are all Western democracies. They all speak English. Okay. Nepal is not in the West. All of them, Canada, Britain, United States, they are all in the West and Europe. Okay. They're basically called Western countries or Western democracies. Nepal is not in the West, it's in the East, where Himalaya is in Nepal, okay? And it does not speak English. So again, this one is a 3-1 split. Is that right? The likelihood is good that it is a 3-1 split. All right. Now take a look at number 6 here. No English. Oh my goodness. Okay. How do you do that? If you have to provide an answer, which one would you choose here? Okay. No answers. No alternatives are significantly longer than the others. And then it's not English. You can't check the grammars of those words or the spelling of those words. No clue. When you have no clue whatsoever, and if you have to guess, pick C, A, B, C. Okay, C. Why? Statistically, researchers have found that C, the alternative C, occurs most frequently as the correct answer. Right? So statistically, you are highly likely to get it right if you pick C. Whenever you have no idea about the stem, okay, the stem is actually the item. Okay, so this one is the stem. All these are alternative. All these are alternative. If you have no idea, pick C. Why? Well, that's the psychology of text construction or item writing. We humans, much like the squirrel, we like to bury the treasure or bury the correct answer deep 6 feet under. Okay, so we like to say put it in A. No. It's too much near the surface. Okay, too deep, D or E in the 5 choice multiple choice E. That's too deep. Okay? And also, two extremes. Okay, people will pick them. So C is a good position. It's deep. I mean, in this scenario, it's deep, and so the psychology of human beings is that we like to hide treasure. So statistically speaking, research has indicated to us that C is the most frequently occurring correct answer, right? So whenever you don't have a clue, you pick C. Okay? All right. Now, see here, the correct answer is, which one is it? Well, here you see that A, C, and D, sovereign, maverick, masculine, they are all spelled incorrectly. Only glucose is spelled correctly. All right? And then you see sovereign has the cap is the S is the S is capital capitalized. Is that right? The rest not. So that there are more variations here, but spelling here. So this one in terms of grammar, in terms of spelling, okay, this is called the 3-1 split. Is that right? So glucose is the correct answer. All right, the last one. The right answer here is a few, and the general public. Is that right? So option D stands out. It stands out. So it's likely to be different from the other three. That one here. A few. It's quite nebulous, is that right? You're not certain. A few. But the general public, it is more decisive, more specific. So this is called specificity. So it is more specific. Okay? And it's the shortest here because it's specific. So it's likely to be the correct answer. Alright? So go over that. Think about it. So it is just to give you a flavor of what is Testwiseness. Okay, so let us move on. Okay, let us move on. So Testwiseness. Okay, now testees' capacity to utilize the characteristics and formats of the test and or the test-taking situation to receive a high score. Alright? Now, so let me put it this way here. Testwiseness is basically applied to the situation when you have to guess. It does not replace what's studying hard. Okay? But then sometimes the professor, the teacher, or the item writer, they unintentionally provide you with a clue, or sometimes several clues to the answer. Right? Several clues to the answer. So therefore, you just take advantage of that. So that is to say, if you are test-wise versus if you're not, okay, so you may ask Peter, what is the difference? What are the differences? Well, the difference is this here. Well, if you're test-wise, you and versus not test-wise. If you're not test-wise, your score may be B plus. If you are test-wise, the likelihood is good that your score, you prepare yourself to become an A- student. All right, so that type of thing. It does not replace study hard. Okay, you apply Testwiseness in the situations when you have to guess. All right, and also when you have Testwiseness, when you know Testwiseness, you train yourself to become test-wise. I'll show you later how to do that. Okay? You begin to establish yourself in such a way that when you are not afraid of taking multiple choice test or true false. Okay, later on I'll show you a way that you will pass any true false test, except Peter Charles, of course, without even having to study. Trust me, okay? Trust me. Because it is very difficult to get stuck good true false test. Okay, so pay attention. All right, so let's take a look at number one. Test-wise behavior independent of test constructor or test presence. So what do you do here? Wise use of time. I will elaborate on this later on. But then the thing is that here, in most of the time, in multiple choice or in standardized test, if you have to apply to law school, you have to write LSAT. If you have to apply medical school, you have to write MCAT. Right? If you want to apply graduate school, you have to write the GRE, Graduate Record Exam. All these are standardized tests with lots of multiple choice test items. Okay? And they don't penalize guessing. And now what we know that penalizing guessing is not good. Okay? Now it will take me another perhaps 3 hours to explain guessing, and if people penalize guessing, what's wrong with it? Okay, it's a measurement topic. I'm not going to cover it here. Right? Wise use of time is that you assume that you have only 1 minute per item. 1 minute per item. So you don't squander time over a difficult test item. Right? So you time yourself about 1 minute per item. Well, you take a look at the item, you cannot solve the problem. You mark it. Well, Peter Child has a set of symbols. If I don't know the question, I'll put a cross. I don't know it. If I'm not sure, but I answer it, I put a question mark here. Something, you create your own symbol. Right? So don't squander your time on difficult items. You skip it. And then put a mark next to the item and move on. And make sure when you are on the answer sheet, you make sure you have skipped this item. All right. So the next one is a strategy for avoiding errors. Okay? Strategies for avoiding errors. Now, what kind of error? Let's say you skip item 10, and then you go to item 11, and you put the answer to item 11 onto the answer sheet item 10, then you die. You die, is that right? So you want to You want to avoid this kind of errors. Okay? All right, sensible guessing techniques. I am going to show you all that here. Okay, so I have just shown you a couple, is that right? 3, 1 split, sound repeat, phrase repeat, and specificity, that kind of thing, right? So I will have an overhead on that, okay, later on. All right. Use of deductive reasoning to eliminate incorrect alternatives in multiple choice tests. That is to say, deductive logic, is that right? You take a look at the stem of the item, stem, okay, so stem, that's the statement, at the top of the question, or, that's called a stem, STEM, and the rest of them here, these are alternatives. All right, so you eliminate incorrect alternative. So a full choice, multiple choice, if you guess blindly, is your success probability is 25%. If you are able to eliminate one, your percentage of success jumps to 33%. Is that right? In a full choice, multiple choice, if you could eliminate one, if you could eliminate two, see the camera, two, all right, then your success rate would be 50%. Is that right? So that's a lot. All right, that's really a lot. Okay. All right. So test-wise behavior specific to particular test or particular examiners. Well, you recognize test construction errors. Now, what is that here? A lot of time here, the item writer, the correct answer will be correct, grammatically, spelling, everything. Okay, it looks pretty. But then, the item writer may not pay a lot of attention to those incorrect alternatives. Okay, so the likelihood is good that there are spelling mistakes, there are grammatical mistakes, things like that in the incorrect alternatives. So if you are smart, you should be able to spot them. Once you see them, you are very sure that that's not the correct answer. Okay? All right. Recognize the test constructing idiosyncrasy that help to give away the answer. Okay, idiosyncrasy, you work on the test and say, wow, lots of there are lots of B. For example, the alternatives B has occurred many times. Now here I come to this answer and I don't know the answer and I can't use any of those test-wiseness clues Peter Child has just explained. So what do? Well, a lot of B's. So this item, I will not choose B. So automatically you have eliminated one alternative. Is that right? So that kind of thing. Okay, of course it may be wrong, but then the likelihood is good that you may get it right. Okay, and also give away, as you will see, this is also one test-wiseness clue I will discuss later on, is that let's say in 30 item multiple choice or 60 item multiple choice, the likelihood is good that answer to certain item can be found in other items. Okay, I will, what, of course, I will give you an example. So it's a good idea to work about 1 minute per item and finish the test so that one, if it comes to what something like this, a giveaway, okay, a giveaway, then you will be able to recognize it. Okay? All right. Reading the examiner's mind when the intent of the question is not clear. And then what, sometimes you're not allowed to ask questions during the exam. So you will have to read the examiner's mind. That is to say, this professor has taught you for weeks. You find out more about what this professor, for example, Peter Child is the second child in the family. I have 2 siblings. I'm the second one, so I have an elder brother and a younger brother. I'm the second. So Peter Child likes the number 2 or B. So if when you write my exam, you don't know any one of the alternatives, you pick B. Likely you get it right because Peter Child likes to put correct answer in position B. Things like that, okay? Things like that, okay? So it is important, therefore, you should also find out more about your profession, is that right? And not just studying, so you pay attention to a lot of stuff here. All right, Testwiseness strategies. All right, so let's take a look here. Of course, I mentioned the best way is what? The best way is always what? The best way is always to know the material. But when faced with a question you cannot answer, okay? So this Testwiseness one, I got it tricked, but actually it's the knowledge, okay? Will sometimes work on poorly written multiple choice test items. They only use them if you do not know the answer and you have to guess. Okay? Now, if you become a teacher, the likelihood is good, is that right? Or you become a professor. Well, try to avoid making these common errors when you construct test items. Alright? Okay? Now, also I want to remind you that these Testwiseness strategies will not work on the provincial achievement test, diploma exams, or other well-written standardized tests because all those item writers, they know all this and they are paid to do that. Now, professional item writers, on the average, they could come up with no more than 14 good items. So because you will find out in your assignment 4, in your assignment is not that easy, okay? So you will find out, okay? All right, so let's take a look here. If you have absolutely no idea, choose C. Right? I mentioned that test writers often try to hide the correct answer in the middle of the wrong answer. So more often choose C than any other letter. So that's from the perspective of the item writer. All right? Now, take a look at this one here. Sometimes the question accidentally gives a clue to the answer because only one answer fits grammatically with the question. You have encountered this, but I want to repeat this here, okay? A dog is an, and of course here when you have an is what you look for an answer that begins with a vowel. Okay, the dog is an animal. Is that right? All right. Now, sometimes the question accidentally gives a clue to the answer by what? Word repeat, sound repeat, phrase repeat. Okay? An example of a nuclear reaction is, of course, here, nuclear fission. Okay? Even if you do not know what the question means, the answer is probably B. Okay? Because it repeats the word nuclear, which is a key word in the question. All right? Now, let's take a look here. Number 4. Sometimes the right answer sticks out because it's much longer than the other answers. Statistically speaking, correct answers are much longer than what distractors. That is from what studies, okay, from statistical research. Okay? So the person making the test wants the right answer to be completely true. I mentioned this, so they often add more detail or add the context to the right answer, okay, to include important qualifiers, to include the context in which it must be true. For example, the freezing point of water, we know that it is 0 degrees Celsius, okay, or centigrade, okay. But then if it is 0 degree, but for pure water at sea level, right? If you bring it up to the mountain, it is different, okay? So here, option C here, it qualifies the correctness of the answer. That it has to be correct, right? Number 5. Sometimes the wrong answers accidentally give a clue to the right answer because only one of the answers is different. So that is to say, here it's called a 3-1 split. Yeah, boy, girl, son, lad. Lad is the British word for boy, for young boy, young lad. Okay, so girl stands out. Right? That's the only one. That is the only female. Okay? Word for female. So since there can only be one right answer, and since boy, son and lad, they all mean roughly the same thing. So chances of the answer is girl. Of course, it depends on the question, right? Now, this trick is dangerous. However, sometimes the odd one out can fool you. Okay? So knowledge still trumps, Testwiseness, if you have the knowledge, of course, here. Maybe the answer was son, because it is the only word in the list about kinship. But this trick might help if you are guessing blindly anyway. All right. So the last one here, if you have to guess and spot a typing error in one of the answers, you choose one of the other answers. Right? So that is to say here, sometimes the teacher making a multiple choice test will prove reading by reading the question and looking at the right answer and going on to the next and they forgot to proofread the wrong answer. So if there is an error, it is more likely to be a wrong answer. So this of course does not work as often since teachers started using computers and spell checkers. But you can still check for homonyms. Alright? So, that's it. Testwiseness. Now, here, I provide you with what? 7. You see here, 7 Testwiseness what? Testwiseness clues. Okay? I suggest what you do the following. Here, memorize them and overlearn them. Therefore, they are here. You overlearn them. Okay, so every time you see a test, a multiple choice or true false test item, all of these seven cues or clues, they will appear in your mind. Okay, well, I tell you, Peter Chow has trained himself to do just this. So I'm not afraid of multiple choice test items. Okay? But once you overlearn all these 7 clues here, you become more confident. You become a confident test taker. Good. Okay. So I encourage you to overlearn all these 7 secondary cues. Secondary has whenever you have to guess they help you. Okay, so it's called secondary, they are called secondary cues. So testwiseness consists in part of the ability to detect and respond profitably to the presence of secondary cues in the test item. Alright, so take a look at the first one. Okay, take a look at the first one here. Sound or word repeat sometimes is called clank. Clank, clank, clank. Clank. Or alliterative associations between the stem and the correct alternative, such as repetition of all or part of the sound of a key stem word in the correct alternative, or repetition of an entire key stem word or phrase in the correct alternative. So here, sound, repeat, word, repeat, phrase, repeat. Okay? Alright, second, look at absurd relationships. So this is incorrect alternatives that are grossly unrelated or bear an absurd relationship to the stem. You look for a girl's name and then you have one girl's name, 3 boys' names, that type of thing. So absurd relationship, it is also called 3-1 split. Alright? So you may want it to memorize it as a 3-1 split. Now this one is important. Categorical exclusion or inclusion or called specific determinant. Both names, if up to you. I remember it as specific determinant, but then it is also called categorical exclusion. Okay, so inclusion of words such as all, everything, no exception, none, no exception, never, no exception, always, okay? No exception, every, continuously, incessantly. Okay? In the phrasing of incorrect alternatives, when you see these words here, these words mean all inclusive, no exception, then you realize that here it is you have all these are called specific determinants. Okay? Now let me show you. Can I skip to the next one to show you? Because they're specific determinants. Okay? And there are 2 types. I call them deterministic determinants and probabilistic determinist. So look at deterministic. Deterministic means what? It has to be like this. So look at the list of words here. Say you have what? All, always, completely, continuously, every, exclusively, incessantly, must, never, none, totally. Okay? So you see, absolutes here are likely to be what? False and untrue. That is to say, how could something be what? That's the all. That means every one of them. Okay? So now, so these are keywords called deterministic determinant. So whenever you see these words, the likelihood is good that that this alternative is not correct. Now I emphasize the word likely. The likelihood is good. Okay, so it's not 100%. Okay, but then most of the time this works. Look at probabilistic what? Look at probabilistic determinants. Probabilistic means there is a chance that it will be like this. All right? So that's called probabilistic. Okay? There is a chance that it will be like this. Look at this. Could, generally, maybe, often, ordinarily, perhaps, probably, seldom, sometimes, typically, usually. So when you see what? All these non-absolutes, they're likely to be true because, well, here, to make a statement true, and you don't want to put in was the context with all these words, they work, right? So two broad classes of what? Of determinants, okay? So you call them what? Deterministic determinants, probabilistic determinants. So commit to memory all these, okay? And then you will what? You will gain. Okay? Do that. Okay? Do that. All right. So let us take a look at one. Number 4. Precise, qualified, specific. Okay? So I memorize this as specificity. So correct alternatives that are clearly more precise in meaning, more fully qualified, or more specific than the incorrect alternative. I will show you examples afterward. Okay? So the answer is specific. Oh, the correct alternative is specific. Okay? Specific. So that what? So that you read the stem and you associate with that one answer, you will know the meaning. Okay, it's clear. Okay, all right. Next one, length. Correct alternatives that are visibly longer than incorrect alternatives, even though they may not include more crucial information. Okay, most of the time it is longer because what? In order to make this correct, the context has to be built in, or you have to be more qualified, that type of thing. Okay, so length. The longer the alternative is, the likelihood is good that it is true or it is correct. So in a true-false test, you will see that what? More statistically speaking, true statements are much longer than false statements. So, if you are smart, using what? Specific determinants, categorical exclusive, plus length. Of course, here you also check what? Grammar, that type of thing, or sound repeat, word repeat, anyway. But these two, categorical exclusive or specific determinants plus length, will help you pass almost any true-false test without having to study for the test. But that pass, course, you could pass, but then what? The idea of studying is what? To excel, is that right? To get a high grade. So you use these two. You use what? Specific determinants and length to help you excel. You still study for the content covered by the test. You hear me? Alright, okay, alright. Grammar. Take a look at grammar. Remember what grammar? Grammatical cues such as differences in number or tense of words or nouns, or use of words like a or n in such a way as to what? To eliminate an alternative or review the correct alternative. Now, take a look here. Different in number, for example. If the stem indicates more than one, therefore in the options, in the alternative, you look for something plural. Is that right? Not one. You look for more than one. Alright? Now, if for example, tense of words, tense of words or nouns. So if in the stem, it is using past tense, okay? Then in the alternative, you look for past tense. If an alternative is written in present tense, okay? For example, in the stem, the word was is used. Then in the alternative, you look for past tense. Okay? If in the stem the word were, W-E-R-E, were, is used, then in the alternative you look for plural number past tense. You look for more than one, okay? But then it's in the past. If in the stem you see the word shall, it shall be done. And then in the alternative, you look for something that indicates the future. You see what I mean? All right, you see what I mean? So you pay attention to the numbers, okay? Or in terms of grammar, tense. Is it past tense, present tense, future tense? Okay, past participle, something has happened, that type of thing. All right? And of course, the use of word a or n. Okay, you know that a, when you see a, the answer must not start with a vowel. But then if there's an n, the answer must start with a vowel. Right? That type of thing. All right? So you will have to train yourself to pay attention to all these things, all this about the number and the tense, whether it is a or n, that type of thing. Lastly, this one is easy. Give away, okay, it's a gift. Okay? One item giving away the answer to another item occurring in a different part of the test. So you see, it is important that you stick to the rule, 1 minute per item. Then you'll be able to finish the entire test first. And then you get back to those that you cannot answer, is that right? Now, then by doing this here, after you have completed the test, you'll be able to spot any giveaway items. Alright? It may not happen, but then if it does, you can. Good. So, I would encourage you one more time is to memorize all these cues and memorize all the specific determinants. Okay? Memorize the deterministic determinant and the probabilistic determinant. All right, let's take a look at the test I gave you. Okay, the test I gave you. So it is clear here. Okay, all right. First, can. Okay, let's take a look at example. The man who may properly be called the founder of the Epicurean school of philosophy is, of course, here, sound repeat Epicurean. So here C is the correct answer, Epicurus. Now, most of these items here, they are taken from the first year history test. Okay, first year history test in Stanford University years ago. Peter got that. All right, so they are actually test items in a very prestigious university history. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. Plautus and Terence are best known as writers of course here, the last one here. Plautus and Teraphin. Word repeat, sound repeat. Okay? Alright? So it is It is when you memorize all these secondary cues, and then like I said here, you overlearn them. Okay? It'll come to you. Okay, take a look at the second one, absurd relationship, or the free one split. Look at it here. The capital of Canada is, and you know Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, they are all in the States. Ottawa, where's Ottawa? It's not in the States, is that right? So it is the answer, free one split. All right, next one. Which one of the following won an Oscar for Best Actress? Actress means you're looking for a woman's name. Donald Sutherland, are you kidding me? I like him. Harrison Ford, I also like him. Henry Kissinger, well, he is a world-known, internationally known statesman. Okay, and he was the I think he was under Nixon. I think he was the external affairs. It's equivalent. It's equivalent to Anthony Blinken in the United States. Okay, all right. Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon, she won the Oscar. Is that right? She won the Oscar once. I also like her. Oh, she's a good actress. And now, of course, here, all actresses are also called actors. Okay, but then what's still here. You see what the word actress here means. Looking for a woman's name. Okay, a woman's name. All right. So look at these two test items. Okay, inclusion of words such as all, none, never, always, every, continuously, suddenly, etc. in the phrasing of incorrect tenses. Well, take a look here. The world owes to Champollion the. Now, take a look at the first one here. You have the word all, and the word every here. And then in D, also the word every, except C. There is C contains no such specific determinant. And if you choose this, congratulations, is the correct answer, right? So you look for those probabilistic and deterministic determinants. Good. All right. The Pendleton Act of 1883 was designed to, prevent the nomination of all supporters. The word all. This is a deterministic determinant. Okay? Now, look at B. Improve the civil service and stabilize it. Good. There's no specific determinants. Okay? Completely eliminate all tariffs. Establish pensions for all persons connected in any way with the civil war. Okay? So, or is that right? All tariffs, really? So B is the correct alternative. Okay? In this history test, Stanford first year history test. All right, let's take a look at one. Number 4. All right, number 4. Correct alternatives that are clearly more precise in meaning, more fully qualifying, more specific than the incorrect alternative. Take a look here. Here, this battle was started what? See, in 480 BC, very specific. And then B, the other items were before the revolt, and then before the revolution, and after the debacle of the Sicilian expedition. So, B, C, and D, they're not specific. Is that right? A, by contrast, it is specific. So specificity is it. So A is the correct answer. All right. Now, take a look at the next one here. England differed from France in the 17th and 18th centuries in economic policy and attitudes in as much as. Alright, so this one is difficult, right? This one is difficult. Let's take a look at the first one here. In France, the state followed what? Mercantilist principle. B. In England, the Puritans frowned on luxury and so turned to mass production of cheap articles. It's long, right? It's long. In France, industry was subordinated to warfare. D, also long. Okay? In France, commerce and industry were accorded a less honorable status than in England. Now, which one is one more specific? Well, the stamp. See, compare what the stamp compares England with France. And you see what? A, B, C, only one country is involved. And only D, that both countries are involved. Therefore, what? It is what? More specific to what? The stamp. Alright, so it is the correct answer. I admit specificity, it is what? Is the most what? Difficult. Specificity is the most difficult. We good? Alright, so let's take a look at one number 5. Okay. Here, correct alternatives are visibly longer length than incorrect alternatives, even though they may not include more crucial information. Say length, okay, because of the context, that type of thing, alright? Take a look at the first one. The door plan. The door's plan. Okay, the door plans was the Allies' campaign plan. It's a shame for me. And then what? Look at C. C is obviously longer. Okay, and also it is what? It is more what? It contains more information. Is that right? The arrangement of amount of time schedules under which Germany is paying her reparation to the Allies. All right. And you will see what this thing here will reappear somewhere. Okay? So length, okay, length. Now, here, the Berlin-Baghdad railway became an international problem, largely because of, then of course, A is much longer than what? It is what? it contains more information. Okay, so the context is built in, so it is the correct answer. All right. Number 6, grammatical cues. Remember, mentioned such as what different number, tense. For verbs or noun, they use the word a or n. Okay, that type of thing. Okay, let's take a look at the Hanseatic League was n. Whoa, plus u, n. Okay, and so you look at what? You look at vowel. Okay, the vowel, of course, here, B. Okay, the association. It starts. It's the only alternative that starts with a vowel. All right. The next one. The syllabus of errors was past tense singular. Okay, past tense singular. And you look at this one here, rhymes. Was rhymes? Are you kidding me? Okay, was a paper one and cyclical, containing this and this. Is it likely to be what? In terms of a number, is right. Okay, look at C. Satirical moves, plural. Political can be textbook, plural. So you see here, B is the only one, is the only alternative with what? It is what? Singular, is that right? Alright, so that the what? This is the correct what? Correct alternative. Okay, alright. So let's take a look here. The last one. Give away. One item giving away the answer to another item occurring in a different part of the test. So you have to finish the test before you can gain. Okay, on this here. Let's take a look at the first one here. Okay. The plan by which Germany was to pay reparation to the Allies after World War I was the, remember the Dawes Plan? Okay, so we discussed that. Alright, so good. That is good. Okay, one of the most famous battles of ancient Greeks took place in 480 BC. Remember specificity the item. It took place at what? The Thermopylae. Right? If you take a look at take a look at the text back, you will remember seeing this. Alright? You know that. Okay, you go back and you find that. Okay, so let's the two giveaway you'll be able to find. Okay, so let's take a look at one. Alright, so Testwiseness. Milman, Bishop, and Ebel in 1965. Okay? They already they defined Testwiseness as an examinee's ability to use characteristics of either a test or the test-taking situation to obtain a high score. Testwiseness is distinct from skills the test is intended to measure, and therefore differences in test scores caused by variability in student testwiseness threaten validity, because here a test, the score in a test is supposed to reflect how much the person knows, is that right? But then if you rely on testwiseness, your score is higher than what you know, is that right? Is that right? But then again, of course, here you may answer, why do you put errors in there? Okay, fair answer. Okay. Anyway, the testwiseness skills discussed here, they are grouped into I group them into 6 categories. Okay, proposed by them. Okay, The first four include using time effectively, avoiding errors, eliminating incorrect alternatives, and knowing when to guess. This is important, knowing when to guess. In contrast to these first four, the remaining two categories capitalize on the habits of the teacher who developed the test. Okay? They include being responsive to the teacher's intention and taking into account idiosyncrasies the teacher built into the test item. Alright, so let's take a look at what using what time effectively. Okay, using time effectively. So let's take a look at what? Take a look at it. Working quickly and pacing oneself. So say students should be what? Taught that in this situation it is important to maintain a quick but sensible pace, that it is critical to stay on task for the remainder of the test. Don't look around for beautiful girls or beautiful boys, okay? You stay focused, all right? Okay, all right. It is what about, as I mentioned, 1 minute per item in what most standardized tests. 1 minute per item in what most standardized tests. So keep this in mind. Okay, keep this in mind. All right, so take a look at what? Take a look at A. Okay, answering time-consuming items last. Okay, so that what you gain all the points that you want. That I mean, those items are easy. You gain those first. So when items are weighted equally, okay, items that cannot be answered or readily should be marked. Like I said, you put a symbol and answered later. Well, this includes difficult items for which more thought is required to derive an answer, and items involving extended or complex computation. If there is any possibility that time will expire before the test is completed, then the student should make sure that he or she has answered all the easy items. All right, this is very sensible. All right, answering high point gainer first. What is the high point gainer? Well, here, if time is limited, then items that will result in the maximum number of points at the end of the time period should be answered first. If a test includes both essay and objectively scored items like multiple choice, true, false, okay, more points per unit of time usually can be obtained by answering the objectively scored items first. So answer those multiple choice and true, false items first. Excuse me. Next, answering the specific question posed by short answer and essay item. Now, here it is more than just multiple choice. Okay, I'm trying to include hints, include advice for taking essay and short answer. So especially with essay items, students have a tendency to write everything they know, okay, or they provide more than what the question asks. Okay, so in doing so, this consumes time that might be used to answer or prove with other items. Also, if if the teacher is using a carefully developed scoring plan, points are not gained by including information superfluous to the question, right? So that's not good. Alright, that's not good. So but then what observation we have observed us, research studies have shown that in writing essay, most students tend to provide more than what is asked in an attempt to gain more marks. Okay? Marking items for later review and changing answer, right? I suggested already that you develop a set of symbols so that you could use them in the test. Alright, so students should be taught to mark items for which the correct answer is uncertain. Often, later items will give insight, remember giveaway, on how to solve some of the preceding difficult items. So marking difficult items saves time by making them easier to find when insight occurs, right? So you have a symbol to mark this is a difficult item. When time allows, I will come back to tackle this item. All right. Often students hesitate to change responses when they review previously answered multiple choice items. And research consistently indicates that students average 2 points gained for each point lost from changing answer. That's from research studies, alright? However, the total number of points gained from changing answers is usually small. Okay? Well, so you consider that and see if you want to change one answer. All right. So the next one, avoid errors. Okay. Here you want carefully following directions to the test and directions given within items. Okay? So students have particular problems with direction to essay items. Well, we know this. Okay? They often lose points simply by not answering the question. Right? So look for keywords and phrases such as list, define, give 2 examples, and compare and contrast, that kind of thing. Okay, you pay attention to that so that you provide those answers, whatever you are asked. Estimate answers. If computations are involved, when possible, the answer should first be approximated and then computed exactly, if you could do that, of course. The correctness of the exact answer can be judged against the approximation. If approximating an answer is impossible or too time-consuming, a likely range of values should be anticipated, of course, if it is possible. If it is possible, proving work. Points are often lost on a test through careless errors. We know that. We did that. Okay? Any time remaining at the end of the test should be used to prove answers. Sitting idly at the conclusion of an exam often amounts to giving away some easily earned points. Right? For example, if a separate answer sheet is being used, the accuracy of marking should be verified. Okay? If you miss an item, whether you put the next test in the next slot, that type of thing. Well, this can be facilitated if the intended answer is marked in the test booklet as well as on the answer sheet. All right, so that's good. Now, there is a likelihood that some students, okay, they have 15 minutes before the test one is concluded. It's still at 15 minutes. What do? Well, they spend time looking around, that type of thing, doing nothing, fidgeting, that type of thing. It's not good. Okay, so just pour all the time you have onto the test. Okay, marking answers carefully. Of course, you should do that. Your answers must be marked carefully when a separate answer sheet is used. Right? Ink should never be used because, well, you cannot correct it. All right? So, because ink, it prevents you from changing the answers, and then because what marks made in ink are not detected by any scoring machine, use a pencil. Most scoring machines here rely on pencil. Pencil is a conductor, okay? Of course, now what they use scan chart, they could and perhaps you could use ink, but then use the pencil because and then with a good eraser, okay, you could erase, you could make changes a lot easier, okay. Eliminating incorrect alternatives. I say that one more time, when answering multiple choice items, test-wise students like you now, I hope, eliminate distractors that are clearly wrong, and then you bump up the probabilities for getting the correct answer. Other students often read through the options until one is found that answer the STEM. A lot of times they do that, but then a better response strategy is that appears a better response that appears later in the list may then be missed. If you go down the list and then this one fits, whoop, and then you check this as the correct answer, and then and then you jump to the next one. Well, what about the next one? Will be even better. Alright, so when answering multiple choice items, the student should read all options, all alternatives for each item. Alright, so you don't just find the answer, you skip the rest of the alternatives. Don't do that. And knowing when to guess. Most students underestimate what they know, but this is true. You know far more than you think you know. That's the point. When students can consciously eliminate even one distractor, guessing increases their scores more than can be explained by chance. Several papers published by my own thesis supervisor lend strong support to this here. Alright? So, if you could eliminate one alternative, okay, your chance of getting this item correct jumps. Okay? Jumps. Alright? So, if you could eliminate one, okay? And also, remember this point here. Whenever we guess, okay, 95% of the time, it is not blind guessing. 95% of the time, research has indicated to us that 95% of the time when we guess, we rely on informed guessing. It's not blind guess, so therefore the likelihood for us to come up with the correct answer is pretty good. Alright? Okay, now, number 5, being what? Being responsive to the teacher's intentions. Responding to teachers' intended sophistication, particularly with essay questions or essay items, students must anticipate the degree of sophistication a teacher is seeking in an answer. say, if teacher is looking forward to what? To a one-page answer, you give her a one-page answer. Don't just what? You give her a half-a-page answer. If it is a one-page answer and you give 2 pages, you are giving too much. Okay, you're trying to earn more marks by writing what? Too much. Okay, and you lose time in doing that. All right. Responding to the teacher's scoring criteria. All right, responding to the teacher's scoring criteria. When a careful scoring plan is not developed, however, students can increase test scores by writing longer responses using good penmanship, presenting a response that is highly organized and avoiding spelling errors and faulty grammar. All right, this is true. Okay, if you could present ideas present ideas, organize ideas in a concise, logical manner, you can. And sometimes we know that even if you present non-answers beautifully, you gain part marks. We know this is something I discussed in my measurement course, and we don't have time for that here. Okay? I wish some of you would take my measurement course if it is offered by the dean. Anyway, the last one, okay, taking into account the idiosyncrasies that the teacher builds into the test items. What is it? Well, you're selecting C as the correct multiple choice item whenever you have the guess. Selecting the longest multiple choice option here. All these are advice given by some textbook, not intent on showing you how to do it test-wise. Okay, selecting the multiple choice option that is cued by the stem, the use of and, okay, the use of past tense, plural, that type of thing. Okay, assuming that options containing absolutes are false, that is to say, options or alternatives containing specific determinants, okay, the deterministic specific determinants, they are likely to be false. All right, so these are all Testwiseness cues, or Testwiseness ideas. So I want to advise you, strongly suggest to you that you memorize this page, okay, overlearn it, and you also memorize the 7 cues here, okay, all 7 cues, overlearn them, and you become test-wise, and you become a more confident test taker. Okay, in doing so, you gain. Okay, and you gain a lot. All right, thank you.